lotus feet, never desires to become one with me. Such a devotee who is unflinchingly engaged always glorifies my pastimes and activities. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There are 5 kinds of liberation stated in the scriptures. One is to become one with the Supreme Personality of God, or to forsake one's individuality and merge into the Supreme Spirit. This is called ekatmatam. A devotee never accepts this kind of liberation. The other 4 liberations are: 1, to be promoted to the same planet as God, Vaikuntha. 2, to associate personally with the Supreme Lord. 3, to achieve the same opulence as the Lord. And 4, to attain the same bodily features as the Supreme Lord. A pure devotee, as will be explained by Kapila Muni, does not aspire for any of the 5 liberations. So, being one with the Lord, and then 4 other, to be promoted to the same planet as the Lord, to associate with the Lord personally, to achieve the same opulence as the Lord, and to attain the same bodily features as the Lord. So, Kapila Muni will explain that a pure devotee does not aspire for any of the 5 liberations. He especially despises as hellish the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Prabodhananda Saraswati, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, said, Kaivalyam narakayate, the happiness of becoming one with the Supreme Lord, which is aspired for by the Mayavadis, is considered hellish. That oneness is not for pure devotees. There are many so-called devotees who think that in the conditioned state we may worship the personality of Godhead, but that ultimately there is no personality. They say that since the absolute truth is impersonal, one can imagine a personal form of the impersonal absolute truth for the time being. But as soon as one becomes liberated, the worship stops. That is the theory. That is the theory put forward by the Mayavada philosophy. Actually, the impersonalists do not merge into the existence of the Supreme Person, but into his personal bodily luster, which is called the Brahmajyoti. Although that Brahmajyoti is not different from his personal body, that sort of oneness, merging into the bodily luster of the Supreme, of the personality of Godhead, is not accepted by a pure devotee, because the devotees engage in greater pleasure than the so-called pleasure of merging into his existence. The greatest pleasure is to serve the Lord. Devotees are always thinking about how to serve him. They are always designing ways and means to serve the Supreme Lord, even in the midst of the greatest obstacles of material existence. The Mayavadis accept the description of the pastimes of the Lord as storied, but actually they are not stories. They are historical facts. Pure devotees accept the narrations of the pastimes of the Lord not as stories, but as absolute truth. The words Mama Porushani are significant. Devotees are very much attached to glorifying the activities of the Lord, whereas the Mayavadis cannot even think of these activities. According to them, the absolute truth is impersonal. Without personal existence, how can there be activity? The impersonalists take the activities mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other Vedic literatures as fictitious stories, and therefore they interpret them most mischievously. They have no idea of the personality of Godhead. They unnecessarily poke their noses into the scripture and interpret it in a deceptive way in order to mislead the innocent public. The activities of Mayavada philosophy are very dangerous to the public, and therefore Lord Chaitanya warned us never to hear from any Mayavadi about any scripture. They will spoil the entire process, and the person hearing them will never be able to come to the path of devotional service to attain the highest perfection, or will be able to do so only after a very long time. It is clearly stated by Kapila Muni that bhakti activities or activities in devotional service are transcendental to mukti, mukti meaning liberation. This is called panchama purushartha. Generally, people engage in the activities of religion, economic development, and sense gratification. And ultimately, they work with an idea that they are going to become one with the Supreme Lord, mukti. But bhakti is transcendental to all these activities. The Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is transcendental to all these activities. The Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, begins by stating that all kinds of pretentious religiosity is completely eradicated from the Bhagavatam. Ritualistic activities for economic development and sense gratification, and after frustration and sense gratification, the desire to become one with the Supreme Lord are all completely rejected in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is especially meant for the pure devotees who always engage in Krishna consciousness in the activities of the Lord and always glorify these transcendental activities. Pure devotees worship the transcendental activities of the Lord in Vrindavana, Dwarka, and Mathura, as they are narrated in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. The Mayavadi philosophers completely reject them as stories, but actually they are great and worshipable subject matters, and thus are relishable only for devotees. That is the difference between a Mayavadi and a pure devotee. Haribol.
Probably the more elaborate
The explanation
between the
Mayavadi and the devotees. Yes. Yeah, one time I had a friend who was a Mayavadi, long, long time ago. And this is before I became a devotee. And he explained to me the Mayavad philosophy, And after I heard it, I was confused. I didn't know what he was talking about. And he didn't know what he was talking about. But he had memorized a few things. And when he explained it to me, I just got confused. I didn't know. I couldn't make heads or tails of what he was talking about. So only when I met the devotees and eventually Srila Prabhupada did Krishna consciousness make sense to me. Before that, spiritual life and gurus uh, and all kinds of um, stories didn't make sense to me because they were stories. They were not Shastra. And people were just making things up or misinterpreting things. Uh, and so uh, at one point, I put a big X on uh, trying to understand anything in the Vedic from the Vedas. It was too confusing. However, when I heard knowledge about the spiritual world given by Srila Prabhupada, all of a sudden it made sense. And I became, satisfied hearing that and learning properly. Uh, why? Well, because before they were not explaining any things correctly. They were just speculating. And it was not satisfying. I don't know if you've ever heard Mayavadis.
Yes,
Yeah, a few times.
Yeah?
I had one colleague Maharaj in office. He was Mayavadi.
Yeah.
And he had memorized so much in Bhagavad Gita. So whatever we discuss, he will bring some verse from the Bhagavad Gita and he will explain Mayavadi concept in so detail. Like I got like totally confused with this. Then in one of your lecture, I heard no need to discuss anything. Then I stopped at all. Then I was just giving him some prasadam whenever I was getting.
The fact
That's
is, if you take the trouble to understand Mayavad philosophy, you risk never understanding Krishna consciousness the rest of your life. That's how poisonous it is. And they know how to juggle words and come up with conclusions that end up minus Krishna always. Their explanations are always minus Krishna. And all our explanations are plus Krishna. So in the end, you don't really get educated. You get contaminated by hearing their lectures. And although they can quote so many shastras better than we can, but their interpretations are always impersonal, and because of that, it's an insult to our intelligence and an insult to Krishna. Okay, let's see. We're reading 32, right?
34.
34. What? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
You had started, but it was not completed. 33. Yes.
Yeah. That's because it's a very good verse. Okay, Canto 3, chapter 25, text 33. Bhakti, devotional service, dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort, just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. And see, that's a very nice statement. Just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. So, what is the fire in the stomach? It is uh, uh, the acidity uh, that burns proteins in the stomach. When I say burns, it digests proteins in the stomach. It's compared to fire. It's the fire in the stomach. Well, when there's too much fire in the stomach, you get I get what? Yes, acid reflux. Yes. In other words, the fire starts coming up your esophagus. You can actually, it's like burning. Yeah. That's very bad because it can ultimately damage your esophagus, and then you're in big trouble. Okay? So it often happens when you mix too many different foods at the same time. You mix up uh, proteins and carbohydrates and sweet all at the same time. Right? And then your stomach gets confused, and then you have this acid reflux. And it's terrible. You know, I haven't felt that for a long time, but I used to feel it a lot before. But I didn't know, how to eat. I just mix everything and eat. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but it's a very bad experience. And, and so uh, the way let's talk about eating. The proper way to eat is to separate the carbohydrates from the uh, uh, sweets and proteins. You should have a carbohydrate meal, and then let's say at lunch, or let's say a protein meal at lunch and a carbohydrate meal at dinner. Let's put it like that. So, what are carbohydrates and what are protein? Well, carbohydrates like um, you eat like potatoes, things like that, right? And proteins are more like dal, lentils. If you mix them, your stomach gets confused because when you eat proteins, the stomach uh, produces acids to digest those proteins. But if you mix it, then the stomach gets confused, and you start having, acid reflux and things like that. Acid reflux is a sign that you don't know how to eat properly, and the acidity is coming up out of the esophagus and burning you. And if you keep doing that, eventually you'll have very serious consequences where you actually burn your esophagus. And it's very hard to eat. You have to be very careful not to mix carbohydrates and uh, proteins and sweets at the same meal at the same time. But that's the way most people eat. They'll eat some carbohydrates, and then they'll eat some proteins, and then at the end they'll eat the sweets. Huh?
So Maharaj, in India, it's especially in North, the eating dal and roti is like a very common thing. So
Yeah.
roti is carb and dal is protein.
Yes.
Dal roti and some dessert.
Dessert, not desert.
Dessert. So it's very common.
Yeah.
Big thing, dal and roti, carb and protein is like very
You,
common.
you completely confuse the stomach because the stomach is excreting acids um, to eat or to digest the proteins, right? And now you put a whole bunch of sugar in there, and everything gets confused. Yeah. So you should have a separate carbohydrate meal and a separate protein meal, and sweets also should be separate from those two. But if you mix them all together, then you're going to, and if you continually do that, you're going to have problems, uh, stomach problems and all kinds of problems. Do they explain this in, let's say, in school to kids? I don't think so. How to eat properly. I don't know. Did I explain that to you? Uh, Was that explained to you?
The school? No.
Yeah.
So in the child cares, we have uh, in a plate, you should have veggies, you should have protein, you should have carbs, and the ratio has to be in certain amount.
Okay.
So
No sweets. No sweets.
yeah, sugar is not encouraged.
Okay.
Any form of sugar is not encouraged.
Yeah.
But
But that's not good either. You should definitely have a separate carbohydrate meal and then a separate protein meal. And if you like sweets, a separate sweet meal, but not mix them. Then you're able to digest easily. When you start mixing them, you eventually have problems. And the first problem that you feel is acid reflux, where you feel acidity coming up into your esophagus, and that's dangerous because if you keep having that problem, it can damage your esophagus. Then it's difficult to eat. Kids, also kids that go on very soon. It's going to be Halloween, and they're going to collect a lot of junk candy. And what they usually do is they get a whole bunch of candy in Halloween. They go door to door, trick or treat, and then the people give them junk sweets, and then they collect those sweets, then they hide it underneath their bed, and all for 6 months they'll eat those sweets, right? And then they start getting sniffles and coughing, and the parents don't understand why they're getting sick all the time. But it's because they're eating those sweets, and plus most of those sweets are junk sweets. They're not really good at all. You can buy them, at the in Costco. They sell whole, big bags of these junk sweets, Halloween sweets. And they have, artificial colorants and all kinds of things, that are really bad for you. And the kids will get, go on Halloween, they do trick or treat, they come home with a whole big bag of junk sweets, and uh, and they'll eat it for like 6 months, and then they have they get colds, they get stomach problems, they get headaches, they get constipated, and so forth. And the parents are thinking, why is this happening to my kid? Well, because your kid collected all these junk Halloween sweets, and they're eating them unbeknownst to the parents. Yeah. So, best thing is, there's two things that you should throw away. Number one is firecrackers. Definitely throw them away because kids can really get hurt by firecrackers. And the second thing is all the junk sweets that they collect on Halloween. Those two things that should be thrown away. And people, I mean, it's unbelievable. You go to Costco, all those junk sweets are sold there, and they sell it. They get sold out, all these junk sweets, and mostly for kids. So you have to be very careful.
It also leads to a lot of wastage coming in, like too much of Maharaj, too much of plastic. And in my circle, half of the chocolates no one eats. Into the sky. Okay. They'll just dump it. Okay, too much of plastic, too much of wastage of food, and all the clothes that they buy, it's like in a low quality one, which is like a one-time use. Okay, so they make this again, it will all end up wasting.
What kind of one type
Halloween
use?
dresses, Costco and different places, okay, they buy Halloween dresses.
Oh, the Halloween dresses.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think they are designed to the quality is only such a way that they are not useful for a couple of days. If you use for second or third time, they start wearing it out. Okay, so the quality is so low, they'll only wear on that day and they dump it. So eventually, there is a lot of wastage every year that's which is happening because of all these things. And then the wrappers for the
You mean when they dress up like a demon or something?
and they won't dress up as the same demon next time. Yeah. It's like a very nice It's one variety. Enjoying the health as well as the contributing every year too much of pollution.
Yes.
But I always wonder what do I do? Like, my kids love it, okay, and
No, what?
always
No, wait a
talking
minute. I'll tell you what you do. There's Halloween and there's Krishnaween. There's a big difference. I invented Krishna Ween.
So we have Krishna being here.
Temple. Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so bring them to the temple on that day.
Yeah. I mean, and we don't serve junk sweets and things like that. And we don't dress up. We don't get them dressed up as demons. They get dressed up as Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda Mai or something like that. Some kids do. Some of the kids do want to, become Kamsa, right? But most of them, just, they want to be Nanda Maharaj, Yasoda Mai, and so forth. Yeah. And then we don't have any junk sweets. We have, yeah, we have what you call our goodness cookies. Yeah.
Can you share one more thing? This protein thing. Okay. In this culture, what I've seen is everywhere the plate with different portions. For some reason, the protein is always represented with the chicken piece or the meat. Okay, as if there are no other alternatives.
No dal.
Yeah, no alternatives. And it happened like my wife, one of my daughter, who she's in high school now, she's going through some health issues. Not serious, but her iron levels are
Or what? Thyroid? Iron. Okay.
The doctor in front of me asked, okay, do you eat meat? Okay, she said no.
Oh, that's a mistake.
And then he's like saying, oh, the meat has more iron levels. I'm surprised, like, he's not giving any other alternatives. I mean, the way he's saying is that is the only way to get iron. Okay, I just keep quiet.
No, if you eat, like what do you call it? Mung dal, you get all the iron you want.
I mean, we have definitely alternatives, but I'm just making a point here that the doctors are,
Yeah.
I mean, they are promoting the meat as if that is the only choice.
Yeah. Well, because they're demons, that's why. They want to poison kids. Have you ever seen the food the pyramid?
Yeah.
Meat is always at the bottom, but it looks like it's sustaining all the other foods that you eat. Yeah, it looks like it's the most fundamental food, because it's at the bottom of the meat of the pyramid.
I asked ChatGPT about the sequence of food, Maharaj.
Yeah.
So is there a certain sequence or way to eat proteins and carbs in a meal based on how stomach digests?
Oh, good question.
So its first thing it says that there is no strict rule or universally accepted sequence for consuming proteins or carbohydrates.
That's a lie right there. Okay, go ahead.
But some approaches consider how different nutrients are processed in the body. Here are some general concepts related to eating proteins and carbs together. First of all, is carbs first or protein first? Carbs first approach. Some research suggests that consuming carbohydrates first may cause a quicker spike in blood sugar, which can lead to more insulin release. If you are sensitive to blood sugar fluctuations or insulin spikes, so example, you have diabetes or insulin resistance, this could be something to avoid. So don't eat carbs. Protein first. Eating protein first in a meal may help slow the absorption of carbohydrates, leading to a more gradual increase in blood sugar. Studies have shown that consuming protein before carbs can help control blood sugar and insulin responses. Then food combining theory. There are some diet philosophies like food combining that suggest eating certain foods together or separately for better digestion. One such theory is separate protein and separate carbs.
This is what I always recommend.
This theory suggests that proteins and carbohydrates require different enzymes for digestion.
Yeah.
Protein needs acidic conditions while carbs need alkaline conditions.
Right. Exactly.
And consuming them together might make the digestion less efficient. But it says like the scientific evidence, I don't think they researched on it, but they have less scientific evidence on that. Combinations of protein.
No, they do that. They say that purposely. Otherwise, all the restaurants, all the junk foods that are being sold, they would revolt against that.
And then there is a combination of proteins. And on the other hand, many nutritionists recommend consuming balanced meals with mix of proteins and carbs and fats to promote what is satiety? Let's say TIETY.
Satisfied.
Means
Yeah,
you're satisfied.
satiety, stable energy levels and good digestion. Then under the digestion
It's
theme,
not true, but anyway, go ahead.
yeah, I think that we understand the underlying desire there is to not impact the current way of business as well. Digestion themes: carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates like sugars and refined grains are digested quickly, while complex carbohydrates like whole grains and vegetables take longer. Proteins. Proteins generally take longer to digest compared to carbs, which means that they may stay in the stomach longer, especially if consumed in larger amounts. Fats. Adding fats to a meal, such as nuts, seeds, or oils, can slow the digestion of both carbohydrates and proteins, leading to longer lasting satiety, basically. So they're saying maybe if you eat fat first, then protein, then carb. That's what they're saying. I mean, this may be why in Ayurveda first they take an amount of ghee. It's
Yeah.
ghee first they take.
Process is to line up your.
Yeah, and also the whole track, yeah, like this one. But is it also this one? It's both ways. It's
So I don't know what that is.
No, I mean, I always recommend not mixing carbohydrates and proteins and sugars at the same meal. You should have a carbohydrate meal. You can have a protein meal. So what's a carbohydrate meal? Like you can eat the
Potato, rice.
yeah, things like that. Roti. And then you have a protein meal, you have dal, and so forth. And you mix them up and eventually, like for example, what's the name of that? The mixture, dal, not no, the mixture of protein and carbohydrate. Uh,
khichdi is
yeah, kitchen,
our ISKCON's khichdi is
Rice and dal together.
rice and dal together.
like
That's ISKCON diet. But it's much better to separate the carbohydrates from the proteins and also have a separate sweet meal, right? You mix them all together and eventually you'll have problems. Not right away, but eventually you'll have problems. Yeah. Okay. So we were on text 33, right?
Purport.
Yeah. Did we finish the purport?
Can stop.
Yeah. Okay, so Bhakti devotional service dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort. Just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. Why should we have the subtle body digested or dissolved? Let's put it like that. Let's read the purport. Bhakti is in a far higher position than mukti. In other words, liberation, pure devotional service is much higher than liberation. Because a person endeavored to get liberation from the material engagement is automatically served in the devotional service. The example is given here that the fire in the stomach can digest whatever we eat if the digestive power is sufficient. Yes, so if you drink when you eat, That's not good. Because what are you doing?
Diluting.
You're putting water on the fire of digestion, right? And what's the fire of digestion? It's uh, inner acids. Yeah, hydrochloric acids are digesting protein. Now, if you mix the carbohydrates and proteins and sweets, the body, your stomach gets completely confused. But if you separate them, let's say you have a carbohydrate meal in the morning, and then a protein meal, and as your dinner, or change it, get your protein meal, let's say at noontime, and then a carbohydrate meal, and at night, your stomach will not get confused, and you'll be able to sleep very comfortably, and never have acid reflux or anything like that. But if you go to these feasts, all kinds of feasts that we have at the temple, you're going to be mixing carbohydrates, proteins, sweets, all together. And eventually, if you have back-to-back festivals, you're going to get sick. And if not sick, you're going to have digestive problems. So we have to be careful what we eat at one sitting. Okay, so next 33. Bhakti is in the far higher position than mukti because a person's endeavor to get liberation from the material engagement is automatically served in devotional service. The example is given here that the fire in the stomach, which is hydrochloric acid, the fire in the stomach can digest whatever we eat. If the digestive power is sufficient, then whatever we can eat will be digested by the fire in the stomach. Similarly, like for example, if you drink at the same time that you're eating, basically you're putting uh, uh, fire in the stomach and water also, or some liquid. And therefore, it really slows down or confuses your digestive system. Should we drink along with eating? I don't think so. It's not a good thing. Should we drink after we eat? Well, it depends how much later. But it's definitely not good to eat while you're drinking also. Kids do that all the time.
In the fast food industry, they eat like burger, pizza along with some drinks.
Oh
together.
my God, terrible.
Yes.
Sugary drink.
Both chunks, they just
Yeah,
take it together.
yes.
Soda, any kind of soda. Yeah.
Oh my God, soda. I haven't drank soda for years. Yeah, we shouldn't mix, the food like that. And definitely should not be drinking at the same time that you're eating. It's not good because you're putting the fire of digestion out. So it's just going to confuse your stomach, and eventually, I mean, everyone can get away with doing something wrong for some time, but eventually, you're going to have digestive problems. And when you have digestive problems, you don't get proper nourishment. And most people who die, they die due to starvation. Now you could say, how's that possible? Dying of starvation. Well, it's by uh, mixing up foods that you eat, and eventually you lose your appetite and you don't eat hardly anything. Just eat just a little bit, because you have acid reflux, and you're afraid of, if you eat too much, you'll get the acid reflux, which is very, very uncomfortable because you can feel, the acidity coming up right to your throat. Uh, Whenever I have acid reflux, which is very rare, I just stop eating, you know, until it goes away. Now, children don't know these things, so they'll, you know, and when they come sit down to a feast, uh, they'll usually eat all the sweets and very little of the, proteins or carbohydrates. And, well, eventually they have, they get sniffles in their nose all the time. And sometimes they catch colds very easily. And coughing. Coughing is another symptom of uh, poor eating habits. And you get phlegm and things like that. Uh, it's because the kids are not eating properly. And Halloween is horrible because they go trick or treating. They'll collect a lot of junk Costco, sweet things, and they'll eat it for 6 months. And during those 6 months, they're always getting colds and sniffles, and they're having digestive problems and so forth. It's terrible. So, it's all right that they can go out and collect a lot of sweets, but when they bring them home, you should take all the sweets and throw them away.
Right. That's what we are trying to do.
Huh?
That is what we are trying to do, but
Yeah.
sometimes we can.
It's the same thing with firecrackers, You should collect all the firecrackers and throw them away. They shouldn't buy them in the first place. Yeah, they're very dangerous. Okay.
Maharaj, just on this water, Chat GPT is giving something
Yeah.
opposite.
What?
Chat GPT is giving some
Advice.
different.
Oh, different. Okay.
It says drinking water during meals can help break down food, making it easier to digest. It can also help soften foods and prevent choking. And it's a myth about diluting stomach acid.
What?
Myths like
So
myths.
the diluting of digestive enzymes with water is a myth. That's what it claims.
What's a myth?
I mean,
There
it's not
is-
true. It's just a
Myth.
Oh, a myth.
yeah.
Not a myth. A
Yeah.
myth. You have to myth.
myth.
You have to put your tongue in between your mouth. Myth.
About diluting stomach acid. There is common belief that drinking water with meals dilutes stomach acid and enzymes, making digestion less efficient. However, research shows that drinking moderate amounts of water doesn't significantly affect digestion in a negative way.
Yeah, but that's implying that if you drink a lot of water,
That's the next.
then it's a problem, right? So better not drink any water.
The next, it says overconsumption of water. Drinking large quantities of water during meals could potentially slow down digestion or cause discomfort like bloating for some people, especially if you are consuming foods high in fiber or rich meals.
You mean like pizza?
People drink always soda and pizza or burger.
That's what they do. They drink sodas along with the pizza. That's McDonald's, diet. Yeah, you get this big uh, bottle of soda, and you eat the pizza.
they call happy meal. I don't know what's happy about.
Happy Meal?
They say happy meal for the kids meal with the meat in it. Okay.
Oh,
And
okay.
I always wonder what is the happy about it. Eating, some dead meat.
No, that's what you call
I mean,
a it's just like calling a blind kid what's the name of someone who has really good vision?
I also,
What?
Who is blind, but they call it
yeah.
he has a
he has a
good vision.
Yeah, how do I say that in Hindi?
Padmalochana.
Yeah, Padmalochana. Yeah, calling a kid Padmalochana,
Lotus eyes.
lotus eyes. Yeah.
that's the official, Maharaj, that is the official name on the menu for the kids.
Yeah,
Like
happy
you go there and can eat the happy meal.
Yeah.
So for kids, it's like, subconsciously you're
Mm-hmm.
putting
Yeah.
that into their minds. Okay.
Words are
This-
powerful. Words are very powerful. Those are called misnomers. You've falsely give a name to trick people to eat something that's bad for them. Yeah.
Kids love it. And the happy meal, it comes with a small toys as well.
Toys.
Oh, yeah, as well. With it. Good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs.
Like cars or something.
Dinosaurs.
And that keeps changing, like,
Yeah.
So they motivate us. Come
By
on.
the way, the diet of kids in America is terrible. Because all the candies and things, there's colorants, and they tell you the colorants, and there are names that you can't pronounce. Anytime there's something that you can't pronounce, don't eat it because it's completely artificial. So this Halloween candy is like devastating because kids can collect a lot of candy. They'll hide it underneath their bed and they'll eat it every day, eat a little bit. And they might be eating it for like 6 months, depending on how much they collect. That's why, Halloween is what? It's another 2 weeks from now or something like that.
Yeah.
The nine.
Okay, so you should get the goodness cookies. Yeah. Let them eat some prasadam. And goodness cookies taste really good. Let them get a new taste for something that's not junk. Okay. Therefore, we'll go to text 34.
Reading the purport.
Oh, we didn't finish. Okay.
33 we have to read.
You just read few lines.
All right, well, we'll start from the beginning. Bhakti is in a far higher position than mukti because a person's endeavor to get liberation from the material engagement is automatically served in devotional service. The example is given here that the fire in the stomach can digest whatever we eat. If the digestive power is sufficient, then whatever we can eat will be digested by the fire in the stomach. Similarly, a devotee does not have to try separately to attain liberation. That very service, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the process of his liberation, because to engage oneself in the service of the Lord is to liberate oneself from material entanglement. Okay, but when I've seen people, they go to Costco and they buy. First of all, they buy enough junk cereal for 1 year. There's big boxes like that, and they like that because for breakfast you just put some cereal and milk, and you don't have to cook. You don't have to do anything, right?
Lazy.
Yeah. And in order to do that, they have these big boxes of junk cereal. And they say, well, it's got this vitamin A and vitamin B and B2 and B4 and B6, And you think, oh, it's something good. But actually, what you should do a test when you open up the box of cereal, you should smell it. Inside, it smells like a pharmacy, because they say, vitamin A, vitamin B, B1, B2, B6, and it smells like a medicine cabinet. Should do that. Try that sometime. Now they can try and mask it by putting some kind of a sweet thing, a lot of sugar that sort of masks it. But if you just smell it raw, it smells like a medicine cabinet. Haribo. That's all the so-called vitamins that they put into the cereals and so forth.
Are vitamin supplements not good?
Uh, I don't think so. You see, you're not supposed. Well, it's not good to take a lot of vitamins because you you take a lot of vitamins. You think, oh, well, the more vitamins I eat, the better I'm going to be. But eating too much of one type of vitamin is not good. When you eat the real food, not vitamins, but real food, it's always balanced by nature. But if you eat only vitamins, I had an uncle. His name was Uncle Dick, and every time he'd see me, he'd say, "Are you taking your vitamins?" And I said, "Well, Uncle Dick," I said, "Can't you get your vitamins by eating the food?" No, you can't, because the uh, uh, the Earth today has become depleted of vitamins, so you have to take vitamins, right? So he was eating vitamins every day, right? And he showed me, he had this thing, it was a round thing, and it had all the different vitamins and the different times of day when you should eat them, right? He showed it to me. And he gave me a lecture for like a half an hour about it. You have to eat vitamins, right? So what happened to Uncle Dick? 2 years later, he was dead. He poisoned himself by eating vitamins. I mean, it's sad, but he was not really eating food. He was just eating vitamins all the time. And vitamins. Why did they start this whole vitamin, uh, you know, industry? Because they were saying that the earth is depleted of vitamins, so you have to supplement it. Now, that may be true, but you can overcome that easily by drinking milk in every meal. Right? And milk has everything in it. I mean, milk from cows, not like not powdered milk or things like that, but the real milk from cows that are eating good hay, and their body is what you would call a manufacturing uh, uh,
Chemical factory.
yeah, chemical factory, So uh, and then the cow, by digesting grains and uh, and uh, what do you call it, the grass, they are extracting all the nutrients and then giving it to you in a way that you can benefit in the form of milk. Milk is ideal food. Of course, a lot of people argue about it. Some people say I'm lacto intolerant. That's because they ate too much junk food. But they can overcome that lacto intolerance by carefully eating. Uh, Usually they get that type of lactose intolerance because they're mixing too many foods together at one meal. Eventually, it hampers their ability to digest properly. But milk is the best uh, form of food because it has everything in it, especially milk from cows that are being protected and taken care of. Uh, you have everything you need. You can just live on milk. There are some sadhus, or they'll just take some butter or milk. That's it. They don't eat anything else. Because there's everything in milk, and especially butter. Um, okay,
Can we, is that in need for human beings? Can we survive without milk?
without milk?
Yeah, can we survive? Because I think human beings are the only mammals who are dependent on milk beyond their kids' age. I mean,
Well, let's ask another question. Can you survive on Coca-Cola?
we cannot.
No.
I mean, can we not survive without milk? That's my question. Is that a need?
Yeah, of course you can, but you'll be missing a lot of things that are necessary for having health. Milk is a perfect food. Huh?
Wholesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a perfect food. It's just that it comes with a lot of bad things that human beings do to cows or the buffaloes, any animals. Okay,
No, that's why we have, ahimsa milk.
like our cow case is different. I'm just
Yeah.
talking in general. Okay,
Yeah, no, you don't want to drink milk from cows that are being slaughtered. That's not good. You know.
there are some questions online. Maharaj.
Okay.
The Mataji, the Mataji. What about having buttermilk with meals, as it is said not to have dry food alone, just like chapati or stir fried sabji?
What? Okay, say that again.
What about Mataji? You're there?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, my question was that they say that you don't eat dry foods like during the meals, like just plain chapati and sabzi if it is not curried sabzi. So buttermilk is also like it is a part of water. So, but different form of water, but water and this thing curd, right? So combination of that. So is that suggested, or dry foods sometimes during meals is okay, like to have just plain sabzi and roti, Maharaj,
Without water.
without, yeah.
Well, sabji is not a dry food, you know. Um, but
Buttermilk.
well, it's always good to not mix watery things with dry foods. Um, you separate them because you will dilute the acids that are necessary to digest the dry foods. You know. In other
Oh,
words, let's say you're drinking a soda and eating spaghetti or something, right? So that won't last for a long time. You'll eventually have digestive problems, especially if sodas. They're really terrible, terrible things to drink. Or just water. Drinking water at the same time that you're eating will only dilute the digestive enzymes in the body, and you will not digest properly. So it's very good to um, eat your protein meal, and then let's say you have a protein meal at lunch and a carbohydrate meal at dinner, So you're separating the proteins from the carbohydrates. And if you like sweets, well, that should be also separated. And then now you're not mixing too many things in your stomach. I know people, they will only eat one or two or maximum three types of food at one sitting. They won't mix a lot of food, right? A lot of different types of food. They just figured out that they just feel much better by just eating, rice and a subji, uh, and that's it. Nothing else.
So, Maharaj, we should have a gap between that and even having milk at meal, like between. So, milk as well, we have to take after certain gap.
Well, milk is a liquid, so
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
it's better not to mix it with all the other things. Uh, no, the idea is not mixing too many foods when you eat.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Maharaj, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
And then there's one more question. Manish Prabhu, you want to ask?
Why don't you just read it?
Just read it then. In last year health checkup, doctor prescribed vitamin D3, though
What vitamin? What?
D3, D3,
D3. Okay.
though there was no deficiency, just because of vegetarian diet. Should we avoid taking?
Well, he said that he's a vegetarian, so the doctor immediately said, "Well, you should have D3 also."
There is no deficiency, but as a proactive measure, doctor suggested to take.
Okay.
Prabhuji is asking, should we take or not?
If you're drinking milk, you don't have to. If you're not drinking milk, then maybe you should. Milk is very important, has everything.
For people who are maybe lactose intolerant, who cannot take milk.
Okay, well, then you can take yogurt. Usually, people are lactose intolerant, they can eat yogurt. They can't drink milk. Yogurt also is wonderful food. Yeah. I mean, good yogurt, not junk yogurt, a lot of sugar in it, things like that. Strawberry yogurt, this yogurt, that yogurt. Yeah. Okay, so let's put it like this. The fewer things you mix in one meal, the better. That way your stomach will not get confused. Right? I knew this one man, he would only eat not more than what is it, a half pound or 1 pound of food at every meal. So he had a measuring scale, and he would measure the quantity of food that he was eating. Let's say it was like 1 pound, right? And he wouldn't eat more than that. And he wouldn't eat a lot of different things in one meal. He'd eat one or two or three things maximum, and not more than 1 pound at a time. Right? So is that good? Well, at least it's being regulated, and it depends what he was eating. Also, I mean, if he's eating meat, no matter how much uh, you know attention you pay to what you eat, if you eat meat, it's bad. But yeah, there are people that are very careful with their diets. And this one man was so careful that he would weigh his food before he would eat it. So he wouldn't eat more than, let's say, 1 pound of food in one sitting, or a half a pound, whatever, I don't know. But it is a fact that the the eating moderately, not eating less than what you need, but eating moderately is much better than overeating or undereating. You know, so that's something that we should. I mean, there are a lot of kids, they won't eat uh, like all the good things that you're supposed to eat. They'll only eat junk foods, So that's bad. uh, I don't know how they learn that. I think they learn that because their parents give them sweets, and eventually they don't want to eat, all the good things that you should eat. They just want to eat the things that they like, and eventually uh, they get they get sick because they don't have a full gamut of vitamins and minerals. It's hard I mean, it's the fault of the parents. If the parents are uh, training a child with sweets, then the child won't want to eat good things. Yeah. So they should just, rear the child with healthy foods and not junk foods. As soon as you start giving junk foods to your kid, uh, eventually the kid will not want to eat the good foods. It happens a lot, you know. Haribol.
So there is another question.
Yes.
Should we avoid caffeine-free coffee too?
Caffeine-free coffee. Uh, in other words, the caffeine has been taken out of the coffee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say no. Why? Because you can't take all the caffeine out. It's always going to be a residue. Yeah. So why even drink coffee? It's better to drink milk or uh, drink water. What? Carrot powder. Yeah, things like that. Why even drink?
What about this Pero coffee, which is
Barley.
barley-based equivalent? It's not.
Well, it's a coffee substitute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are okay.
It's okay. They sort of
Rooibos,
burn the the
barley.
yeah, and make it have somewhat of a coffee taste.
Carob. It is a substitute for chocolate,
Oh, okay.
but carob has a lot of
Calories or-
good things.
And then there's another question about, are all the 5 liberations bona fide?
Well, devotees are not real devotees are not really interested in liberation. They're interested in
So,
serving Krishna. Materialistic people have materialistic desires, are interested in liberation. The devotee is more interested in service, regardless whether it's in hell or heaven or in the spiritual world. And heaven is not the spiritual world. It's a place where there's mostly the mode of goodness, but it's never pure goodness. So we should just want to be engaged in devotional service to Krishna without any alternative motives. And that way we don't have any problems. As soon as you say I want, there's a problem. But if you just say please give me service, there's no problems. So we should be always engaged in some kind of devotional service to the Lord. If you're going to say give me, it should be give me service. Right?
Mhm.
Haribol.
Liberation to the mean liberation from the birth. Okay.
Yeah, from this material.
Okay, and then the devotional service in our case is so that's possible without human being form. I'm trying to I'm trying to understand the difference between the devotional service again and the liberation.
Devotional service means that you're not interested in mukti. You're interested in serving Krishna with love and devotion. And you can do devotional service even in hell.
Okay. So we are okay, even it's okay to take birth again, but again, we should be in the form of devotional service.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And devotional service can be done in any place, anytime. And if you're, let's say, you're in jail or you have a straight jacket on, you can't move or anything, you can serve mentally. So you can never be stopped from performing devotional service.
So that is what I should be asking for God.
Wherever you are
in jail or hell or
Yes.
give me the power to be able to with you.
Yes. To serve.
Haribol. Okay. That is your takeaway today. All right. Anything else?
No, I think our question.
All right. Well, we'll stop now and pick it up in 11 hours. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees will you in the evening and today again home program.
Okay.
If you are invited, please join.
They can come uninvited.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone will sing. They're opening their house to the devotees.
You can gate crash. That party.
Also, cows are
That's
accepted.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare